Welcome to the Iowa Department of Education Title III webinar that is focused on Annual Measurable Achievement Objectives, also known as AMAOs. The purpose of this webinar is for you to be able to first define Annual Measurable Achievement Objectives, identify each of the AMAOs, and understand the impact of not meeting AMAOs at the state, subgrantee, and district level.
Let's define AMAO. An Annual Measurable Achievement Objective is a performance objective or target that Title III subgrantees and LEAs must meet annually for its English language learners. All LEAs and consortium members receiving Title III funds are required to meet the two English Language Proficiency AMAOs, AMAO 1 and 2, and a third Academic Achievement AMAO based on AYP information, AMAO 3.
So identified AMAOs include number 1, that is around growth. Number 2 is proficiency. 3 is adequately yearly progress, which is the content standards. Determination by a combination of state-approved English language proficiency assessment. That assessment is used to determine AMAO 1 and 2. And the state-approved content area assessment is what is used to identify AMAO 3.
AMAO 1 focuses on growth. Are English language learners making sufficient progress in the acquisition of the English language as measured by the state-approved proficiency assessment? For instance, if a student moves from a composite score level of 2 to a composite score level of 3 on the approved English language proficiency assessment, he or she would have met growth for AMAO 1. AMAO 2 is relative to proficiency. This measures the percentage of students who are fully English proficient and meets the state-approved language proficiency standard at the end of the academic year.
AMAO 3 is around adequate yearly progress, also known as AYP, and includes the percentage of EL students making AYP in reading and in math.
This table is included for illustrative purposes only. States are required to establish and communicate targets around each of the AMAOs. Those targets are federally approved and become part of the state's accountability workbook. This table illustrates the last 3 years of approved targets for the state of Iowa. In 2012-13, AMAO 1 target was 60.8% and AMAO 2 target was 23.2%. In order to meet AMAO 1 or 2, districts and subgrantees must have met those established targets.
What are the responsibilities of the state as it relates to AMAOs? The state is responsible for calculating data and notifying subgrantees of both subgrantee and LEA data around AMAOs. The state is also responsible for monitoring and providing technical assistance to subgrantees on corrective action should they not meet AMAOs. Another state responsibility is to assist subgrantees who have not met AMAOs for 2 years around their corrective action plan. Subgrantees must complete that corrective action plan and specifically address AMAOs in that corrective action plan that they have missed. The state shall provide technical assistance for that corrective action plan, develop professional development strategies and activities to support the corrective action plan, require that the subgrantee and districts to use these PD strategies and activities, and develop a plan to incorporate strategies to improve language instruction educational program. State responsibilities also for those subgrantees who have not met AMAOs for 4 years or more. The state shall require the entity to modify its curricular program and method of instruction, and the state also is to determine whether the entity shall continue to receive Title III funding related to its failure and/or require the entity to replace educational personnel relevant to its failure to meet AMAOs.
What are the subgrantee responsibilities related to AMAOs? If the subgrantee does not meet one or more AMAOs, it is responsible for notifying all EL families within their respective district area of AMAO status. The subgrantee is responsible for notifying individual LEAs of their AMAO status, as well as notifying individual LEAs of the corrective action status and monitoring the LEA corrective action planning process and implementation.
The LEA responsibilities, like subgrantees, districts who have not met AMAOs for 2 or 4 years are subject to writing a corrective action plan and implementing the actions they've identified in that action plan. LEA responsibilities also include if the program that the child is enrolled in does not meet AMAO objectives, parents must be notified within 30 days. The LEA also has responsibility that includes all information is to be provided in a language that the parent understands to the extent practical. To meet this requirement, the Iowa No Child Left Behind Parent Communication Center, formerly known as the Iowa Translation Library, is available as an online resource at the address listed here to provide necessary documents in 23 languages. In addition, LEA responsibilities include that parents are to be given information regarding how they can A, be involved in their child's education, B, help their children to learn English, achieve academically, and meet the academic content and achievement standards expected of all students. It is highly recommended that this outreach be carried out through regular communication with parents. Through communications, parent questions, concerns, and recommendations can be addressed. LEA responsibilities also include teachers should be choosing instructional approaches and methods that will articulate into a long-range teaching strategy that matches the English language proficiency standards and AMAOs. This long-range strategy is best developed in collaboration with the long-range objectives of the mainstream program's academic content and performance standards.
To recap, from this webinar, you should now be able to define annual measurable achievement objectives, identify each AMAO, understand the impact of not meeting AMAOs at the state, subgrantee, and local level.
For further support or questions that you may have regarding AMAOs, please contact your district's AEA Title III consultant.
Thank you for your time and attention to this very important topic.